and other ventures we might jump into, but I can't let you jump in the ride and hop up out the ride without having some fun with you. Revisit your dream style, man. So it's time for another installment of Who Got It. Let's get it.
Still Leroy.
All right, Montre, your family has roots in Port St. Joe, Florida. You were raised in Vallejo, California, and you lived in Savannah/Atlanta, Georgia, as well
Mhm.
for several years. All right, so we need to know who got it between Port St. Joe, Vallejo, and let's just say ATL.
Ooh.
All right, you ready?
Ooh, let's go.
All right. There's six topics in this segment. So topic number one, who got it? Vallejo, Port St. Joe, or ATL? Who has the best access to a large body of water?
Ooh, I got to get at the Port St. Joe. I know Vallejo is that itty bitty city by the bay, but Port St. Joe is that itty bitty city by the ocean. I mean, it is truly. I mean, the Gulf of Mexico is right there in Port St. Joe, and I mean, it's straight up ocean, like, and the water, man, is it almost gives you a feel like you're in the Caribbean because you got the white sand beaches, you got the blue water, and it's warm. Like, as much as I
Yeah.
love California, I don't go to the beach out here. That water cold out here.
Yeah, it's cold and dark.
Yeah, and it's dark, but man, out there in Florida, man, in Port St. Joe, you could go waist deep and still see your feet, and the water is just warm, man. Yeah, man, I'll always choose Florida, Port St. Joe, when it comes to the body of water.
Well, that's dope, man. I love it. I've been to Destin, Florida, and it's the
That's
only
not too
place that I've
far. Yeah,
that I've been to where there's white sand beaches and you can clearly see. You walk out and it's like, man, it's beautiful. So, man, if you
yeah,
grew up, and I know how prideful growing up in Vallejo is and being by the water, but you grew up, you had those experiences, man. I can't even imagine. Like, yeah, I would pick Port St. Joe or
yeah,
Vallejo
for
all
sure.
day when it comes to that part. All right, man. That was the best access to a large body of water, and he chose Port St. Joe. All right, Coach Trey, who got it? Port St. Joe, Vallejo, or ATL? Who has the most diverse cultural experience?
Ooh, mm. Uh, it's close between ATL and Vallejo, but I got to give the nod to Vallejo. I mean, I didn't realize until a couple years ago that Vallejo is the most diverse city in America. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's pretty dope. But yeah, Atlanta has a lot of different cultures. But I mean, it's just so rooted in Black culture. I got to give the more diverse culture to Vallejo because we grew up in Vallejo and we have friends of every race and
Mm-hmm.
ethnicity and background. There were Saturdays where I would wake up and go watch cartoons at my white friend's house, and in the afternoon I'm playing video games at my Filipino friend's house.
Yeah.
And then going over to my black friend house. Later on that evening. That's just Vallejo, man. And
Yeah.
so that rich culture and that we have from Vallejo comes from diversity.
Yeah.
I enjoy my palate for food is so vast because of Vallejo. Because we grew up eating Filipino food, we grew up eating Mexican food, we grew up eating all these different types of cuisines, just because that was what was in the neighborhood. And
Yeah.
so you don't get that, from a lot of places nowadays, man. But yeah, shout out to Vallejo for being so diverse.
Yeah, man. Definitely on that note. I mean, I spent some time in ATL too. Very diverse in certain ways, but it's
Yeah,
so rich in Black culture that
yeah,
it's hard to see the diversity
exactly.
outside of that. But in Vallejo, like you said, my mom growing up had my grandmother had a beauty salon on Mini Drive,
Yeah,
right across the street from College Park, and in that shopping center up on the hill right
I
there.
know exactly what you're
And
talking about. Yeah.
oh yeah, it was a church there. It was LaKenya's beauty salon. And the only reason why I bring that up is because when you talk about the diversity in food and stuff like that, there was a Filipino restaurant at one time there. There was
Hmm.
a Korean store with a restaurant in it. There was a my grandfather owned a barbecue joint in one of the spots.
Yeah.
Next door to the beauty salon was a Louisiana seafood kitchen,
Yep.
and then they had a burrito truck that used to come park in there.
In the parking
Like
lot.
man,
Yep.
any day I could choose whatever I wanted, like whatever cultural food I wanted. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? So that's crazy, the diversity there. It's hard to find that these days anywhere where you have that much diversity in one shopping
Absolutely.
center. You know.
Absolutely.
All right, Coach Trey, we on to the next one. That was the most diverse cultural experience. All right, who got it? If money was no object, which city in which city would you build your dream home?
Ooh, man. That's a good one. That's a good one. If out of those three cities, I would choose Port St. Joe just because it's so close to the water. Atlanta, I love it because of just the richness of the city, the people there, the vibe, gives you that big city vibe, but also gives the history of the South. But yeah, to be able to build a dream home right there on the beach, give me Port St. Joe.
Yeah, for real. I kind of figured you was gonna choose that one because I'm like, man, if you don't choose Porn St. Joe, I don't know. I wouldn't choose that, bro. I love Vallejo. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? But
I ain't building my dream home there.
I ain't building my dream home there. Not my dream home.
I might build somebody else a house there, but
You know what I'm saying? I have a house there. You know,
yeah,
I can some place I can go stay in when I go visit the city. You
there
know what I'm
you
saying?
go.
But yeah, not my dream home. All right, that was if money was no object, in which city would Coach Trey build his dream home? He chose Port St. Joe, Florida. All right, who got it? Port St. Joe, Florida, Vallejo, or ATL? Who has the best sports culture?
Ooh, I knew this was coming. I knew this was coming because I mean the sports culture and the history in all three are just amazing. It's some beautiful stories. You have some of the most greatest athletes coming out of these places. But if you talk about just sports culture, not talking about, who's most talented, the best athletes or whatever, but when we're just talking about sports culture, I'm going to give the nod to Atlanta only because of the fact that it's a big city and that you have major league sports year round. You got the Hawks, you got the Falcons, you got the Braves. They lost in NHL, but you got a minor league in NHL team up the way, not far. And then with the
They have
lower
a
level,
WNBA
they
team.
got a WNBA team. They got, you got Georgia Tech right there in downtown Atlanta. An hour away, you got University of Georgia. So you got top tier college sports. The high school football, basketball, and baseball scene
Crazy.
is crazy, man. So
Crazy in Georgia.
if you're a sports fan, if you had to pick one of the three, I gotta give it to the ATL.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that one wholeheartedly. I mean, I spent some time down there. Of course, culturally, like you said, Vallejo, our city has a lot to offer when it
Yeah,
comes to
well,
sports.
yes.
But you kind of got to be from there to understand how
Hmm.
deep it is. You
Yeah,
don't have to be from ATL to understand and see the depth of the sports culture there.
yeah,
Even like we talked in stolen bases, on our podcast, there's so much history from the Negro Leagues that is based in Georgia, that this sports culture started in the 1800s.
yeah, yeah,
Whereas maybe in Vallejo and Port St. Joe, the culture is a lot newer. Dope response, and I totally agree. If you like this conversation, we have more conversations like this on the Stolen Bases podcast. Y'all subscribe to it. STOLENBASES. You'll see both of our faces on that. page when you go, so you'll know that it's us. All right. That was the best sports culture. We got two more. All right, who
Okay.
got it? Port St. Joe, Vallejo, or ATL? Who got the best weather?
Ooh, man. Ooh. Eh. Well, Port St. Joe and Atlanta weather isn't that different because you're in the South, so you got that humidity. This
Mhm.
time of year in the summer, you got the well, you're not too far from ATL. You're gonna have those afternoons thunderstorms coming through,
Yeah,
so it kind of puts a damper on the afternoons. In the summertime, you got to be
happen
done by
today
3 o'clock because that 4 o'clock thunderstorm go roll through. So you better be done whatever you're doing. The
for
big
sure.
picnic over at 3.
Yeah, go to the grocery store, everything, man. You don't want to be caught outside. Period.
But man, this is a hard one, and but only because I like the dry climate better than the humidity. I'm gonna give the nod to Vallejo, but we know being from the Bay Area, once that sun go down, it get cold in the Bay.
It, it do, it
But
do.
them days, especially the summer days, man, it ain't nothing like it, man. It's not too hot, not cold. You got that cool breeze coming in off the water, man. A Saturday afternoon at Dan Foley ain't nothing like it.
You can't match it, man. You don't have to have I mean, t-shirt, shorts, and you Gucci,
You
man. And
Gucci,
like it's the you can't even describe it. Like the
yeah,
weather is beautiful. I know there's places where they have beautiful weather.
yeah,
Port St. Joe, I'm sure the weather there is phenomenal on
yeah.
some days out of the year,
Oh yeah,
especially when there's no humidity. In Atlanta, it fluctuates a lot with the
Mhm.
storms and
Yeah,
weather patterns, just like it does here in Nashville. But in Vallejo, like you said, consistently
yeah.
about 80% of the year in the during the day, it is absolutely
Yes,
beautiful.
yes,
I mean, you talk about your skin feels great when you walk
yes,
outside. Your
yes.
lungs feel great when you breathe the air. You feel
Yeah.
like your nails and your hair is growing better out there. Just like, you know what I'm saying?
Right,
That's what it
right.
feels like, bro.
For sure.
So
So yeah, shout out to Vallejo for the good weather.
yeah, man, ain't nothing like that Vallejo weather for sure. I miss that tremendously. People ask me all the time, "Do you miss it, man?" That's the one thing. I mean, my family, yeah, but the one
Hmm.
thing I miss most is that weather, man.
No doubt.
All right, last one. Who got it? Port St. Joe, Vallejo, or ATL? Where do you think is the best place to raise a black family?
Ooh, that's so good. That man. Ooh. Um, I feel a little bit different about Atlanta than I did when I first moved there in 2000. But I'm gonna still give the nod to Atlanta. Um, Vallejo right now, we know it has its challenges for many reasons. Um, Port St. Joe, because it's in the deep South, it has its challenges. It's trying to evolve, but it's a slow process. Being that it's a small town, it has its challenges. It's still in some ways stuck in the past. People are stuck in their ways, and in some ways, this town is still somewhat segregated. You got a black side of town and you got a white side of town. Yeah, you have more black people moving over to the white side, but it's still somewhat segregated, and people don't really congregate together until they get to like the little downtown area. But Atlanta, you have so many successful black professionals, and it's still a great place to raise a family, especially in some of the suburban communities. So I would still give that nod to the ATL. That's one of the things that it enticed me to move to Atlanta, was the fact that there were so many successful black professionals living there, and just a richness of black households and families. I was able to connect two of my closest friends in Atlanta. They had established homes, had wives and children. So so it helped me be a better husband and father by having friends who were doing it. One was a
Mm-hmm.
captain, a captain in the at the Atlanta Fire Department. The other one, it was an established school teacher. I'm like, whoa, my two best friends are a firefighter and a school teacher. Am I living in like this new universe where it's just where you really do see black families with the the house with the picket fence?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was a beautiful thing, man. So yeah, I gotta give that nod to Atlanta.
Yes, man. I would now that one I would agree with. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know anything about Port St. Joe, Florida,
yeah,
except for what you've shared with me to this point. But Atlanta, I do have that experience. My parents, my father still lives down there. My sister lives down there. She's raising her young son down
hmm
there, and so I do know how it is in Atlanta. And I would say that if I had to choose between the three, because of the cultural experience and I find it as a very high entrepreneurial spirit
yeah,
in the city of Atlanta. There's a
yeah,
lot of hustlers and go getters, and I
hmm
don't mean hustlers in a negative way. I mean
right,
just people
yeah,
that's just out there just getting it.
hmm
It's very progressive in that way, and I think that's very inspiring for
absolutely.
a young person to grow up in and see and have that part of their DNA that, hey, I'm gonna get it out the mud and I'm gonna make it happen no matter
Yep,
what. You
yep,
have to in the ATL, you know what I
that's
mean?
right.
So yeah, man, that was dope. Thank you for your responses to those questions. I enjoyed that segment of who got it.
That was dope,
Uh,
man. I like that.
yeah, man. Yeah, man. He had the best access to a large body of water. He chose Port St. Joe, Florida, the most diverse cultural experience. He chose Vallejo, California. If money was no object, in what city would he build his dream home in? He chose Port St. Joe, Florida, because of access to the water. The best sports culture, he chose ATL. Obvious choice between the three. The best weather, not so obvious, but he chose our hometown, the itty bitty city by the bay, which is
Yeah,
Vallejo, California, and the best place to raise a black family. Coach Tre would raise his black family. If he had to do it all over again, he probably would start it all over from the beginning in the ATL.
that's where I
Man,
raised my family, and I'll do it again.
that's dope, man. I appreciate your time. Appreciate you taking that ride with us on Who Got It, man. I enjoy doing those segments, man. And I'm looking forward again to us in the future on this Stolen Bases podcast journey.